Hey folks, welcome to Real Southern Outdoors. Today, I'm going to show you how you can build this $200 accessory bracket and camera mount for around $20. Or if you're like me, you can probably build it out of stuff you have laying around your house. Okay, to build this accessory bracket and camera mount for your full face mask here, what you're going to need, let me go over it. You're going to need your dive mask, of course, and what I'm using is a Guardian full face mask from OTS. If you don't have a Guardian mask like this, you might be able to take this design and modify it or change it around a little bit and make it fit your mask. So if you got a Guardian, maybe you can follow along. If you build it just like this, it'll work for you. Couple things you're going to need. Your mask, of course, your action camera with all these little brackets and all that comes with it. And one that you're going to need is that handlebar mount bracket. You're going to need to take it apart and use the top piece that has the mountain bracket part on it. We're going to use some 8/32 by 1 inch stainless steel. These are oval Phillips machine screws. A couple 8/32 lock nuts and little flat washers, number 8s. I'm using a 1/2 inch, like number 8 Phillips head screw, and a little bit larger washer, like a 1/4 inch larger washer there. You're going to need one of these. They're HDPE or plastic cutting boards. You can pick these up Walmart. You might be able to pick them up Dollar Tree or something like that. Pick you up one of them and a 5-gallon bucket, and you're going to need to take the handle out of it. First thing you're going to want to do is take your cutting board. You're going to need to cut 2 pieces out of it. You're going to need a piece that's 3/4 of an inch wide by 5 inches long, and a piece that is 1 1/4 inches wide by 3 inches long. Now, if you're using one of these black cutting boards like I am, I found that this chalk, like the welders use, it works really good. They use it for like marking on steel and on, and you can wipe it off. You can pick it up Harbor Freight, Lowe's, or somewhere like that. It works real good for this. Now, to cut this, you can use a skill saw, or if you've just got a regular hand saw like that, this works good. This stuff cuts easy. And on this piece here, I'm going to be cutting a notch in it. So if you've got a coping saw, that'll make the job a little easier for that. Once you get your pieces cut out of your cutting board, you're going to need to take your 1 1/4 inch by 3 inch piece, and we want to make it look like this. Now, how you're going to do that, you're going to take your piece and measure a 1/2 inch from here back this way and a 1/2 inch down on each corner. You should mark 2 notches just like that. If you look, the frame on your mask here, it has a angle on it right in here. We're going to want to cut that angle. And the way I come across that, I put my piece of plastic right up in my frame just like that, leaving it sticking over, not quite a 1/4 inch, but almost a 1/4 inch at the top. Up here is where I'm talking about. And then we're going to want to take our chalk, hold our piece of plastic where we want it, and we just want to trace out this little curve. I'm going to take my coping saw, and I am going to cut this notch out. Once you get your pieces notched like this right here, next thing you're going to want to do is take that half of that handlebar clamp mount that we got. You want to measure from bolt hole to bolt hole. And when I measure mine out like that, mine measures about 2 inches. Now, we need to take our 3/4 by 5 inch piece, and we need to get those bolt holes a pattern matched up like that. So I know that 1/2 of 5 is 2 1/2. So I want to center this piece up using that center mount right there, or center part of that mount. I want that right at my 2 1/2 inch mark. Then I'm going to take my drill, that's a 5/32 drill bit. I want to hold that in place, and I want to drill that hole out. Now, this piece has already been pre-drilled. You can see the holes in it. That's because I've built this bracket a couple times, and I've modified it to come up. This is the best version of it that I've come up with. So now that you've got your holes drilled in your 5-inch piece, you need to transfer those holes to this 3-inch piece. Now the way this is going to go together, this is your 3-inch piece is going to be sitting on your bracket, on your helmet, on this frame. It's going to be sitting on it just like this. So we want to take our 5-inch piece, and it wants to set to the front side, right by that notch, just like that. Remember, you want it sitting that way, leaving this little ear sticking out the back. So you should end up with something like that. Now you need to keep this centered up, and the way to do that would be, since this is 5 inches, this is 3 inches, that's going to leave you an inch left over. So take your chalk and put a 1-inch mark on it. Put your pieces together the way they go, keeping them flush on this side. Take your drill bit. See, I've got that piece flush right there with that 1-inch mark. You can put one on each end if you want to. Then I'm going to drill. I'm going to drill these holes. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. You want to make sure you keep your holes where they're lined up. So take one of your 8/32, put it through your top. These are going to be a little tight, so you might have to take a screwdriver or something and kind of run it down into that bottom piece a little bit. That's going to keep that plastic from wanting to slide back and forth. And when you go to put this together, one hole being over here and one over here, and it not lining up perfect. So put one together like that. Keep it flush on the front. Drill your next hole out. You may ask, why did we build this out of 2 pieces and not just one when we could have cut one piece with that notch on it? Well, I'm going to show you why. If you look where this is going to mount like this, if I had this made out of just one piece sticking back like this, you see I've got these clamps here. So let me get them off. Hold the straps out of the way. If you look right where this buckle is, if this piece was here, it puts pressure on that buckle. That's why I wanted this notched out, so that buckle would have room to come back around where it naturally wants to be. The first version I did, it put pressure on that buckle, pushing in like that, which puts pressure on the side of your head. If you're diving for hours at a time, that is not going to be comfortable. And plus it deformed the mast just enough right there where that seal is in here that it leaked just a little bit. So, and I found that without ever getting in the water, just by putting the mask on. You could tell breathing in that it drawed in air right there. It never sealed, and like I say, it was putting pressure on my head right in there, and I knew I did not want that. Once you've got your holes drilled where you can mount your handlebar clamp piece, take it apart. Take your top piece off. Now remember how this piece is mounted. Remember, this is going to go together just like this. It's going to come apart like that. You want to take your bottom piece, flip it upside down where the holes will be close to you. You want to take a 3/8 drill bit. If you're using these 8/32 lock nuts, if you're using different size nuts and all, you'll have to change your drill bit size. But what you want to do is on the bottom side, make sure it's the bottom side of your bottom piece there, and you're going to want to just drill just a little bit in there, about halfway through your plastic cutting board. Now mine's about 3/8 of an inch thick. If you're using a different cutting board than I am, you're going to have to adjust that. But you just want to drill this hole deep enough that these little nuts, lock nuts, will go right down in there, recess them. Lock nut side goes up, put it in that hole, set it down in there, mash it down in there. You may need a pair of pliers or something. You take your pair of channel locks or something and mash it in there. After you get your lock nuts pressed in there, before we put this together, there's a couple more pieces we need to put on the bottom side. Right up in this top part, we want to come right up in that top corner right there on each side, And we're going to back down just a little bit. I'm going to say 1/8 of an inch or so, maybe just a little bit more in the corner. Drill your holes in your corner, kind of like that there. I come in about 1/8 inch down to 1/8 inch on each side. Now these 1/2 inch screws are going to be a little bit long, so to start with you want to assemble it. And you may find out on yours they work or they may not. They may be a little bit too long. If they're a little bit too long, once you get everything adjusted out, fit where you want it, you can just back your screw out. See how much it's sticking out? Take your screw out and take you a good pair of pliers, or if you got a grinder or something, cut that screw off just a little bit more than what you got sticking out there, where it'll stay down into this plastic and you won't have a sharp edge up there to catch your hand. Now that we got our washers on, we can assemble this. Take your handlebar clamp mount, put your 8/32 through. You're going to want to run this up by hand, because if you try to use a drill on this, you may get by with it, but if you try to use a drill on it, I found it'll try to spin those lock nuts and they don't want to hold. If you do it by hand, it seems like they work pretty good. For some reason, your lock nut wants to spin. You're doing it by hand and it wants to spin. I'll show you a trick. You can take a pair of channel locks, just go on each side of that plastic like that right there and squeeze down on it, and then try to tighten it up. That'll help hold that lock nut in place, keep it from spinning, and you can snug these up. And they don't have to be real tight, just snug them up good enough. And you just want to make sure they're not sticking out any sharp edges up there, because you don't want that digging into your mask. Now this part of the bracket is pretty much finished. I say we may have to cut these screws off on the back if they ended up being too long. But that's going to be that part of it. Get my washers to stay. That'll be that part of it for right now. Now set that to the side. Okay, the next step, we're going to need to take the handle out of our 5-gallon bucket. Now if you'll just take you a big pair of pliers and you'll look how that end's bent up under here. Mine's pointed down, so I'm just going to pull out on that handle a little bit, grab the pliers on that curve, on this bend right here, and just kind of twist out. That handle will come right out for you. Set your bucket to the side. You can use that for something later. This end that went into the bucket we just pulled out, I want you to cut that off down here. Now these lineman pliers you can pick up like Lowe's or somewhere like that in the electrical department, they work real well for stuff like this. You see how this has got two bends on it right here? We want to save one of them. We need to straighten the other one out because we want to get this handle off. We just want to straighten this rod out. Pull our handle off. You can throw that away or keep it to the side for something later if you want. And we kind of want to straighten this other angle out too. But we want to keep it almost like a 90-degree. You can go ahead and cut this other piece off at this time too. You're going to want to kind of straighten up this one side. You want it pretty straight. Don't have to be perfect right now. But we'll be bending it later. But you want to have something like that. Now, the way this bracket mounts, it uses this lip inside the lens. Even the ones you buy from OTS, that's the way they mount. They clamp around right on the inside of that lens right there on that lip. To make that, we're going to take our tape measure and we're going to measure right inside that lip. Mine measures about right at 3.5. So to give myself some room, I am going to measure about 3.25 from this bend over this way. I'm going to put my pliers on there. And I'm going to bend this bucket handle around, just like that. But keep in mind, bending this, you don't want to do a lot of bending back and forth. You want to kind of make your turn with it. Go on and do it. Steady motion. If you try to work these things back and forth, they're cheap metal, so they will break. But they are strong enough to do what we're going to need. Because once we get them bent where we want them, we're not going to have to be doing too much with them anymore, and they'll hold plenty of pressure, way more than what we need. The factory bracket that you buy, what it does, it clamps in here, comes around the side of the mask and comes back this way and connects through this bracket here that we made. So how we're going to do that, we need to bend this in like a J. So what you want to do is take your pliers, right in one of these corners, start on one side or the other, and you want to give yourself, maybe a 1/4 inch, if you can see, something like that. And you want to bend this thing like a J. So what I'm doing is grabbing it like that, and just grabbing the bucket handle, and I'm just gradually coming around in like a J. You'll see, that's what you should end up with, something like that. Let's do the other side. And once you've got both pieces bent, look like a J. Now after you've kind of taken your bucket handle and bent it a little bit, you can see what I've kind of come up with here. Kind of goes up an angle and then back this way, and then you'll have to shape it a little bit. You'll have to figure out how you want yours mounted and where it works out best. But you've got your back piece of this bracket on. Take your bucket handle, hook it in where it goes, and you're going to kind of want to look at it, hold it in place, and kind of see where it goes, where these two pieces cross. Then what you're going to want to do is either measure, get a measurement here on them, where the rod crosses your plastic piece, or just put a mark on it or whatever. Then you're going to want to take your 5/32 drill bit, and you're going to want to drill a hole through it, just like that, straight through, like that. You can do that by laying it flat. Just make sure you can do it in a drill press, or you can do it with a hand drill. That's what I did. Make sure that you keep it straight up and down, because that's not that wide, so you don't want to come out your side. You want that going straight through. I done one at the top, one at the bottom there. Once I get my holes drilled, I'm going to lay my bucket handle up here, and I'm going to cut this excess off. But I just want just enough for one of those lock nuts to go on it and catch. So I'm going to let it stick past, maybe about a 1/2 inch. We're going to cut it off where it's a little shorter for right now. Don't cut it too short. If you do, you got to start all over again. And bend you another handle. Then you're going to need an 8/32 die. Now what we're going to want to do is check, kind of eyeball it, see about how far we need to thread that. I'm going to probably thread it up about right there. So we need to take our tap, now if you don't have a tap and die set, maybe you got a friend that's got one, or you can pick these up. It don't have to be an expensive one, because this is, like I say, cheap metal. You can get them at Lowe's. You probably pick it up at Harbor Freight. Get cheap if you don't think you're going to be using this stuff that much. You can get a cheap one, because it'll probably do the job for you the first time. You see, this stuff is not high quality steel. This really is supposed to go in here like this. You can take this and turn it, but it's going to hit right up here. But you can work with that. Keep doing it like this. I just grab it by hand. If it gets hard, I'll put a piece back on there. But Now that we've got our bracket, we've got it threaded on both sides, we want to put this together, because this is going to have to be trimmed again, or I'm going to trim mine again. Those holes that we drilled through straight this way, we want to put that together a little bit. Don't push it all the way through. Leave you enough to hook it on the front. Hook your back piece in where it's going to go. Kind of come to the front. Let's push all this together. Make sure everything's lined up. Now, as you can see, that's how it hooks up. We still got all this sticking out. I don't want that. That's just something to get snagged on. I'm going to cut mine off. Now, I'm going to use one of these flat washers. And I told you earlier, I think I told you you're going to just use 2 of them. Well, here's the 2 I was talking about. I did put one under each side of my camera mount bracket here to raise it up a little bit so my screws didn't stick out the bottom. Go ahead and put those on. Get your lock nut. Get you a socket. You can run these up. You won't even need a ratchet, really. You just want to run this up hand tight. This ain't going to take a lot to hold it. But just be careful, don't strip it out. You just need just a little bit of pressure on them, just to hold it. Now once I get mine snugged down like I want it, and I make sure everything is in place just like I want it there, now I'm going to come back and cut these off. I'm going to take my pliers, I'm going to turn my cutting blade towards those, and I'm going to cut them. Leave me just a little bit past that nut. Now the reason I'm cutting this after I put that nut on, that is going to mess up your threads. If you cut it before, you'll have a hard time putting that nut on there. So go ahead and put your washer and your nut on there and cut it. Then we can hit it with a file, and when you want to take this off, you can back it off and it'll straighten those threads out as you go. And you won't have to fight with your threads being messed up. Once I get this cut off, I took my file and I've hit these and I've knocked them down smooth so I won't have any rough part of that bolt there. And then I've got some pieces here I found in the toolbox. They're just little rubber caps like this, and I think you can pick these up at Lowe's in the hardware section, where the drawers come out, where they got stainless steel and everything. They got things called furniture parts in there. I think you can find these in there. If not, maybe you can go to a Advance Auto or something and get some like little vacuum caps or something that'll fit over there. They'll clean it up, make it nice looking. There's your mount, and you can see you can put your camera right on here. There you have it with your camera on it. You can put one on this side and put your light on it, or switch it back and forth, whatever you need for accessory mounts to mount it on there. So I'm going to be using this gold dredging. I'm going to want to add some gold dredging to my channel. So if you're interested in that, you want to see gold prospecting and all, I've added this camera so you'll be able to see what I'm seeing underwater dredging. So hopefully we'll get on some gold. So I hope this video will help you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that notification bell, share my channel, help me grow my channel. Maybe I can help someone else just like I'm trying to help you. So until next time, may God bless you, and we'll catch you later. Okay, a little trick to make your plastics and all look a little nicer. After you've cut it, you're going to have these saw marks in it. So what you can do is take your razor blade and kind of scrape it down and get it pretty flat and kind of smooth. It'll look pretty good, but there's another step here. If you'll take your heat gun, and heat that, it'll smooth right out for you. Now, this is just a scrap piece. You'll see it get real shiny and all. You can see the difference there. So that'll give you a better quality looking piece. Since these bucket handles we're making these accessory brackets out of are not stainless steel, you're going to want to put some kind of protective coating on them. Now you can spray paint it or whatever, but I'm going to show you what I've been using. I've been using this coating here that I've got on this bracket. I've going on 2 years or so, and I've sprayed a lot of my projects with it, and it's held up a whole lot better than paint. A couple of my projects are on top of my truck, and they stay out in the weather 24/7, you know, and then the wind and everything going down the highway, and it's lasted a lot better than paint. Now, this is not a paid advertisement. They're not paying me to say this, but this is what I use a lot of my projects. It's Flex Seal. So it's held up very good for me. You can't really tell on this, but other projects I've done, that stuff right there has made a good protective coating on it. Like I say, they're not paying me to say this. At the time of this, I'm making this video, I've never heard from them. So if they want to contact the channel and contact me, you know, and let's work out a partnership, I'd be glad to, because I use it on a lot of my stuff. But give it a try, see how it works for you. Let me know.